Dennis in Kettering has given me a call. 0344 499 1000 is the number he's called, and you can too. Dennis, I understand you worked in the prison service, is that correct?
Good morning, Peter. Yes, I think the whole thing's been a little bit over-egged here. I mean,
a prisoner's escape, Dennis.
Yeah, but if you let me continue, I mean, up until a year ago, I worked in the prison service when I retired at the age of 70, and I had a stint as a prison officer then as an OSG, operational support grades, are the people who look after, you know, all the trucks come in and all the visitors, and they escort them. And this is a breakdown in procedure. Basically, when a truck comes in, you'll have two OSGs will escort the truck to the kitchen, and then they will make sure that it's clear before it moves off.
So how do you do that, Dennis? Sorry to interrupt you. How do you do that? Do you have mirrors? Do you look under the truck? Do you look in the truck? Tell me about that.
Well, initially the truck will come into a sterile area, then it will be checked through to the kitchen. And while it's at the kitchen and while it's unloading, we'll have two OSGs who will supervise the unloading. There'll be no prisoners there. There may be a couple of prisoners will come out to take the trolleys into the kitchens. Once they're finished loading and unloading, then what happens is the prisoners go back into the kitchens, and the guy in charge of the kitchens must radio the central radio to say that he's counted these numbers and they're all there. And then the truck is then escorted to the sterile area where it's checked again before it leaves the prison. So there's actually been a breakdown in procedures.
I mean, that sounds pretty straightforward in terms of those procedures that should be followed. So this is just a procedural issue, you think, or perhaps the procedure wasn't being followed and this prisoner perhaps saw that and took advantage of that. We don't know, but that's a possibility.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Peter. Where it fell down first is after they delivered the goods into the kitchen. The kitchen's then closed up, and the person in charge of the kitchen radios the central radio place to say, my numbers are 10 and they're all here. And then the truck's allowed to go into its next part, and then it's checked again.
Interesting. Okay. Did you ever have prisoners who tried to insert themselves into that process, who tried to escape or tried to exploit weaknesses, or did it always go like clockwork?
To be honest with you, in my time, I mean, I did 7 years as an OSG, operational support grade, and it's a great job. And but again, it's all procedure. As long as you keep the procedure going, we didn't really have an awful lot of young officers or young people who became OSGs. They mainly became officers. It was more the sort of older type like myself who'd maybe moved from being a prison officer to an OSG.
You clearly had a lot of experience, Dennis. Was there a lack of experience in the prison service by the time you left?
Well, definitely. I mean, the prison officers themselves were coming in. I worked at Aylesbury, which is a young offenders institution, and you had prison officers coming in at 21, trying to supervise 21-year-olds. And it's very difficult for them. It's not their fault. And as I say, the other thing was what was happening was senior officers were sort of semi-retiring into becoming OSGs, and so they were losing that experience from the prison itself, you know.
Yeah. Dan, absolutely fascinating call. Thank you for ringing me.